Yo, what's good? I haven't uploaded Draft League related video or any video since DPL Season 3, which is like early 2020. And all those videos I deleted anyway because I kind of didn't like them looking back. So yeah, there is nothing on my channel. It's been dead. And it's not really going to be brought back to life. I'm not becoming an uploader again. But from time to time I might put something out because I joined a Wi-Fi league after kind of wanting to for quite some time, and just my real life schedule just never really panning out. I joined the NCP with a bunch of my friends from back in the APA. So yeah, I'll be doing a Wi-Fi season, so there'll be some uploads from that over the course of the next few months. It might be something I do like once a year, but that's really like what you can expect. So yeah, I haven't done a Wi-Fi league in even longer, like 2017. So this whole draft analysis thing I have to do now, as you can see by the title. These videos are not something I like. My main thinking is like, the issue is you either say a bunch of information that's like pretty self-explanatory or obvious, but if you were to actually use any meaningful commentary, then like you kind of give up what your approach was in the draft, and that can kind of inform your opponents who might watch the video of how you might tackle their matchups. And I don't know. So I'm kind of just gonna go through how I made my decision to select certain Pokemon throughout the draft. Not get too much into how they will all play together or how I will build with them. You'll be able to see that over the course of the weeks to come throughout the regular season. But yeah, so I'm just gonna give the play-by-play. I won't take too long with this. So yeah, let me see. I've never used OBS actually, so this is gonna be interesting. Let me see. Take this down. Okay, so round one, I took ZERAORA. ZERAORA, if you know me at all, it's a Pokemon I'm very comfortable with. I use it a ton. I draft it earlier than sometimes I need to, because I prefer it a lot over the top tier Pokemon in the league. Even like some stuff like Tornadus or Mew, I'm much more likely to take ZERAORA. So in a draft, I usually end up getting it because I'm more willing to take it earlier than everyone else. However, that was not the case here because I was pick 9, and interestingly enough, for whatever reason, Garchomp was still available, and I decided not to take it because at the time I preferred other grounds for like the draft compositions, the different draft plans I had made. So even in a world where Garchomp was available, I kind of preferred the different drafts that I kind of planned out in my head that had ZERAORA. I like a lot of the mid-tier to low-tier grounds that can rock, and not that Garchomp can't rock, because obviously it can, but I tend to not want to run Garchomp that way, and then that would require me to run like a different ground, or an additional ground, a certain steel, certain rock, like more things to accommodate the lack of rocks on my like 17-18 point ground. And that's typically not something I prefer, even if I can acknowledge that Garchomp individually is much better than ZERAORA. But yeah, basically I was able to justify it by feeling like I can make a better draft around ZERAORA, and also just being much more comfortable using ZERAORA. It was my most used Pokemon in Gen 7. It's my most used Pokemon now, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I definitely have no regrets about making this pick. So after that, I take FERROTHORN. FERROTHORN is one of my favorite rockers. Well, I don't know about that, because now that I think about it, I like a lot of rockers. I like Heatran, I like Nidoqueen. Actually, those are the main two I like. But FERROTHORN I also find to be very reliable. I like its typing too. I like that it gets Thunder Wave. So yeah, when the pick came back to me, I looked at the board, and FERROTHORN was basically my favorite option. I do like that its typing is good. However, it's weak to fighting and it is weak to ground. So despite being a physically defensive biased Pokemon, it doesn't have the typing for that. It has better Spadef typing in my opinion, but regardless, because it's fat enough, it always tanks 1 to 2 hits from these Pokemon that I mentioned. So it really doesn't matter the chances that you're able to get rocks up one or multiple times in the event that you have you're playing against good hazard removal. The chance that you're able to get these up is very reliable with FERROTHORN. I also just wanted to make sure I got a steel that could rock. That's pretty much what I always make sure I do, unless I draft Aegislash. So yeah, so that's why I took FERROTHORN. So after that, my next pick is REUNUCLUS. REUNUCLUS is a Pokemon, I favor it more now than I used to. I've used it. Let me see. I used it a lot in DPL for multiple seasons. I took it in UDL, and I took it again here. And what I found about this Pokemon is it's incredibly versatile. A lot of different sets that it can run well. It's a pretty reliable fighting check in general. Even Pokemon that get knockoff usually are going to lose to it. I also find that it's a complete noob destroyer. Like, there are so many matchups you can just run like regular CM, and it's just a wrap. Like, you can play a pretty straightforward endgame, and at some point, just with time, REUNUCLUS will naturally destroy a team. So yeah, I felt like it was a really safe pick. Not necessarily the best Pokemon on the board at the time that I got it, round 3, because for whatever reason this draft was kind of weird. We had Amol drafting a bunch of trash Pokemon, like, for the memes, so the board was sort of inflated in terms of quality at the top, especially in the earlier rounds. But regardless, I still took REUNUCLUS because I wanted to make sure I got it, just because I felt like it has like the REUNUCLUS itself has a really good like skill advantage in terms of using it versus certain opponents. So that's why I took it. Yeah, it's weird because when I draft, it's like, my thinking is I want to take the best Pokemon available early, but for whatever reason it was just like I didn't like the specific good Pokemon that were available in these early rounds. So I just took the best Pokemon of the ones that I like. Like, for example, I left things like Lele on the board. Not that I don't like Lele, but I don't know. It just wasn't what I preferred out of a Psychic. So yeah, next I took VOLCARONA. Now, VOLCARONA was a Pokemon that I knew that I wanted early. Like, if the draft looked a certain way, I might have taken like round 2, maybe even 3. I did that in UDL. I think I took it 2. I generally rate setup moves that boost speed and an offense in one. So that's basically just Quiver Dance and Dragon Dance. I just think it's really efficient and really reliable in terms of like cleaning up endgames. So I pretty much always have Dragon Dance something on a draft, but if I can swing like a Quiver Dance mon, VOLCARONA being far and away the best one, then I tend to prefer to do that. One thing I also find about VOLCARONA is when it comes to like Sword and Shield and you don't have to worry about hazards because you can run boots. The fire bug typing, I mean, fire in general is a very underrated or underappreciated defensive typing, but fire and bug together with boots actually has like a lot of surprising resistances that become pretty clutch in certain matchups, especially in these leagues that are allowing Zamazenta. So yeah, this thing is like a warm body. You can just throw at stuff as well, but I will obviously be using it more like as a late game win con, and I just think it's really good at doing that. It has a lot of good moves for it. So yeah, after that, I take Galarian Zapdos. I was looking to get a strong fighting type. It's no secret that my favorite of this type is Mienshao, which actually costs a lot less and is, well, it's not weaker than Reckless, but you usually run Regenerator Mienshao. So in most practical cases, Mienshao is a lot weaker than Galar Zapdos. But Galar Zapdos was on the board, so I took it, and Mienshao got sniped just a couple picks before me, I think. So yeah, that's why I took it. It has U-turn. It's very strong. I do love what Thunderous Kick can do into other attacks when you lower the defense of the Pokemon that comes in and switches on it, because very few Pokemon can take a coverage move at -1 defense. So it's actually like it's strong on its face, like if you just look at the stats, but it's deceptive because it's even stronger than that because of how the sequences around Galar Zapdos typically play. So I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that. I don't know. The experience level with playing against Pokemon like this kind of varies in this league, and really in a lot of leagues. So I do think I'll be able to take advantage of using Zapdos in the ways that I described. So yeah, I did end up getting a fighting type. If I didn't get this one, the drop off was pretty steep because a lot of fighting types went in this 5th round. A lot of like the good ones. So it was like Mienshao or like Galar Zapdos or bust. Like, because I think Urshifu Rapid Strike also went shortly before this pick, which is something I was interested in at the time. Because as you can see, I still don't have a water. And honestly, when I do show you the water I get, oh my god, dude. Oh my god. It was so annoying. Anyway, so after that, I take Alolan Persian. This is a Pokemon I spam a ton. It's my favorite dark type to use, honestly. I love Parting Shot. It's probably my favorite move in the game. It's fast. Knock, Foul Play, Parting Shot. Those 3 moves alone are good in almost every matchup. It's very reliable to revenge kill physical setup sweepers. For this reason, it usually tanks any 1 hit. When you're unboosted, it tanks 2 or even more. It has a lot of weird coverage that surprised a lot of people. Most people are not familiar with this thing's move pool, and for good reason, because it's weak, but it does have moves like Power Gem, which hit a fair amount of things for like quad super effective. So it has a lot of surprise factor and a lot of room for creativity with its sets, which is something I really like. I almost always run Fur Coat though, just because having the fat Pokemon that you can just throw in and click P-Shot and outspeed pretty much whatever you're coming in on, and being able to take advantage of whatever you have forced out as a new thing is coming in. It's basically one of my favorite, to me, one of the best pure momentum mons. Not that there are other Pokemon that get momentum better, but Persian momentum is pretty much the sole thing that it does. And so Pokemon that dedicate themselves to this niche, I think Persian is one of the best that you can get. Darks to me are also mandatory because there are so many fat psychics that eat hits so well and have reliable recovery that can run CM, recover, and then like a mono attack psychic move. I do think being able to fit a dark is pretty much mandatory if you don't want to just get smoked. That's sort of a benefit of why I took REUNUCLUS, is like if you drafted poorly, like you kind of just lose to REUNUCLUS and there's nothing you can do about it, assuming you're good, and well, you know that I am. So yeah, Persian, a Pokemon I'm very comfortable with, probably my second or third most used Pokemon in all of draft, so it's no surprise that I took it here. I was glad I was able to get it. I am willing to overextend on this Pokemon and take it early if I had to, but looking at the other drafts, I just knew that I didn't. But people were still drafting in the prices that are higher, like this thing was 8 points, people were still drafting 11s and 12s. A lot of people already had Darks, a lot of people already had pivots. People might have there were drafts that preferred like stronger offensive Darks than what I had got. Persian's only 60 attack, but I like the fast and the fat Dark for I don't want to say every draft, but most of them that I do. So after this, I take TOXAPEX. Now this is the water I get. TOXAPEX is something I have experience using. It's not a water that I love. I am usually someone who, a lot of people complain about passive Pokemon. I'm usually someone who is willing to accept passive Pokemon because they have a lot of redeeming qualities outside of that. And passivity is usually something that you just have to account for and build around and create like favorable sequences around, so that you're not being taken advantage of by like sub setup. However, I do find TOXAPEX to be one of those Pokemon that you can't really, for as fat as it is and how easily it can come in and sponge a hit at little repercussion and switch out with Regenerator, it is fairly easy to take advantage of with like a sub setup move 2 attacks. So among passive Pokemon, I smile the least on TOXAPEX. However, it is very good for obvious reasons. I don't have to explain that to anyone. But the story with the water is, I don't remember what water I wanted initially. The first one the draft was a couple weeks ago from the time I'm recording this, but the first one, I know I wanted Urshifu Rapid Strike, but that got taken early, and I was like, okay, no big deal. I was interested in Seismitoad, that got taken. And what happened is, I think around round 5, the turn that I took Galarian Zapdos, I had noticed that Tapu Fini was still on the board. Now, like, that's a great pick for me. Tapu Fini isn't a Pokemon that I love, but Misty Terrain kind of benefits everything that I have. It's very good in itself. Water Fairy is an amazing typing, and I was like, it's kind of a crime to leave this thing still on the board. Now, the thing with the draft was, there were only 2 of us at this phase in the draft that didn't have a water. So I wasn't in a rush to get Tapu Fini because I was not under the impression that anyone wanted it. And the other fairy that I was interested in was Comfy, because Urshifu Single Strike was allowed. And so it was just me and T-Row Price who didn't have waters. And I was fully like aware that he could take Tapu Fini, and I'd be like, okay, if he takes Tapu Fini, no big deal. I'll get Comfy later in a different water. But the problem is, Jesse 504, who took Slowking round 2, takes Tapu Fini out of nowhere and completely bones T-Row and I. And so T-Row naturally takes Comfy, which was my backup for Fini, because Jesse, like, for no reason took Tapu Fini. And oh my god, the chaos after that pick happened, insane. So I sort of had to lick my wounds. So at this point, because that happens, I don't have a water, and I don't have a fairy that I want either. All the fairies that I'm interested in are off the board at this point because I was waiting on Tapu Fini. So I wasn't in a rush to get Comfy. T-Row takes Comfy, so I'm boned for my water and my fairy, 2 major types for any draft. So that was kind of troublesome, but that's kind of what led to me to take TOXAPEX, just because it's so fat. It has a fighting resist, which fairy also resists. It's a fat water, has regen, has a lot of good defensive qualities. Not my first choice by any means, obviously, but I felt like considering what I had left to take, this was far and away the best option, and I'm not really like upset about it. I think in the end this draft accommodates TOXAPEX quite well, and TOXAPEX does a lot for the draft. But yeah, that's the story of how I got TOXAPEX. So yeah, sounds good. The next pick I take is CLEFAIRY, which is the fairy that I decided to get. I hate things like aromatisse. I think they're terrible. I can't think of what else. They're all creamy and stuff like that. So if you don't get a top tier fairy, I don't rate Diancie either. So if you don't get like Sylveon, Tapu Fini, Comfy, like just get CLEFAIRY for 4 points, because like it's better than. Oh, I like Granbull as well. A bit less so because Intimidate doesn't work as much. Oh, actually that only applies in Nat Dex formats. I was talking about like Granbull's ability to check things like Gallade, Mega Gallade, and Mega Lot, but that doesn't really apply here. So yeah, I like Granbull too, but other than those, like I'm getting CLEFAIRY. So I decided to make sure I prioritize a fairy that I like, being CLEFAIRY. For the most part, I have all the Pokemon that I was interested in, so I'm not terribly particular at this point in the draft about which Pokemon I take and in what order, because I have at this point like 18 points left to spend on 2 or 3 Pokemon. So if I don't get my first idea, like I don't think I'm gonna be hurting that much. Like the essential structure of my team is long already built after this CLEFAIRY pick. So I do like CLEFAIRY. It's very fast with an Eviolite, deceptively fat for a middle stage Pokemon. Has teleport, knock, all the good stuff. Magic card, unaware. You know, it's Clefable Light. I mean, we all know what this thing does. So I think it's a good pick for me, especially for this draft. And just considering what happened with Tapu Fini, I think walking out of that exchange alive with a TOXAPEX and a CLEFAIRY is not bad by any means. So after that, I take Tyrantrum. I wanted a Dragon Dancer. I didn't want to pay the money for Haxorus, and everything else was either gone or I didn't like it. So that's why I took Tyrantrum. I like this thing as an anti-lead rocker, because it does have a lot of strong jaw coverage moves that kind of smoke a lot of opposing rockers. It's decently fat on the physical side, so it does have a decent amount of opportunity to set up. Dragon Rock has decent Spadef typing because it quad resists fire, neutral to water, stuff like that. So the setup opportunities are pretty good. It's not terribly fast, so sometimes 1 DD will not be enough, but it is what it is. It can also run Scarf. So Tyrantrum I thought was a cool pick. I haven't used this Pokemon since Oras RU in like 2016, 2015. I don't remember which year that was, but it was nice to be able to fit it on this draft again as a Dragon Dancer, because I wanted Dragonite way earlier in this draft, but it went, which isn't a surprise to anyone. So as the time went on and I prioritized other things, it became clearer and clearer that Tyrantrum was probably like my most preferred option to fill like an offensive Dragon Dance Sweeper type thing. And I also wanted another rocker. And then finally, to round out my draft, as you can see, I don't have a ground, so I take PILOSWINE, which is a fantastic pick for this draft because it's really fat, especially with Eviolite, so it can stop a lot of Volt Switchers. Offensive Electrics in general, has Ice Shard for setup sweeping dragons. Another rocker, which Tyrantrum's not like a terribly reliable rocker, it's just a mon that has that option. So having FERROTHORN and PILOSWINE that can both very reliably serve in that role, like as a predominant role on a team of 6, is very nice. So yeah, this is the draft that I took. I'm actually very happy with it. This is one of the better drafts, one of the drafts I like more in terms of the leagues I've been in, especially Gen 8. I haven't played a lot of Gen 8 leagues, but this is a draft that I actually really like. I feel very confident in what I picked, and I feel very justified in the decisions I made on a round-by-round basis. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the draft. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and yeah, keep your eyes peeled for future videos, because yeah, I'm gonna have team builders and then the games themselves, obviously. So yeah, I guess I'll see you in a bit.